Welcome to another video. I realize that all my videos so far have been photography centric, but if you watch my very first video, I did talk about that I was also a novelist along with being a photographer, and I would occasionally do videos concerning publishing and writing. So this first one's going to be a very basic video about the difference between traditional publishing, self-publishing, and I'll briefly touch on hybrid publishing. This starting screen right here is my own personal website, which I created myself. This is one of the pages, actually the bottom of one of the pages, and you can see my first novel that I put out in 2011 was called A Beautiful Song. I have 11 novels that are all self-published. After I created the first two, I then did a series about a soul stealer, then went to a series about a young man who learns history through speaking with presidents, dead and alive, and then went and created a series about a lawyer in West Palm Beach who is a serial killer. That's an ongoing series. The presidential series, I'm in the middle, well, actually towards the end of writing the fourth in that series. There'll probably be 5 in that series, and I'll finish it up. This series here is still open-ended. There could be 1 or 2 more that get added to that one. So that's my website. That's actually the home page. Here, I list my novels and my photography, give you a little bit of information about who I am and how I got started writing novels and in photography. So let's start talking about some of the differences between traditional and self-publishing. This will not be a video trying to convince you that one is better than the other. In 2022, I don't know that one is better than the other. What I will try to convince you is that one is better than the other for you. And only you know the type of person you are, how much work you want to do to publish your book, whether you just want to write your book and hand it over to someone, or whether you want to keep more control of the process, which is essentially the difference between the two. There are other differences, of course, and we're going to touch on them. But I'm not here to try to convince you that one way is better than the other. Personally, I've self-published all my books. Would I traditionally publish one of them in the future? If the right opportunity came along, of course I would. So I'm not trying to tell you that one is better than the other. If you decide to go the traditional route, odds are pretty good that you're going to need a literary agent. In fact, you will need one if you go to a big publisher. How do you get an agent? Well, you start with a query letter. My tip would be, if you do approach a literary agent, there's a good probability that they're going to tell you on their site what it is they want in their query letter. And I highly recommend that you follow their directions as to what they want in that query letter. Be aware that each one is different and follow their directions. Also, be ready for rejections. It's not easy to get an agent. Even in 2022, it's not easy to get an agent. You're going to get a lot of rejections. Some will actually get back to you. Some will not. Some might even get back to you and say, this genre really isn't something that I handle. I recommend maybe you go to X, Y, and Z agent and give them a try. But be prepared for rejections. Now an agent has agreed to take you on as a client, and they have to sell your book to a publisher. What's that time frame to bring it to market? It could be years. So be prepared for that as well. It's not going to happen overnight. It could take months, if not longer, for your agent to sell to a publisher. Then, once the publisher has control of it, you have to negotiate a contract. That could take a little time. I highly recommend that you take it to an attorney or someone that understands publishing and read over that contract before you sign anything, because you're signing away a lot of your rights. So be prepared for that as well. All this takes time. Publishers lay out in advance what books they're going to bring to market at certain times of the years. You're going to be at the end of the line, more than likely. So it could be a few years before it actually comes all the way out to hit the market. From the time you finish that book until the time it actually is in a bookstore, it could take several years. I spoke to one lady who it took her 6 years before her book was actually in the marketplace. So if you are traditionally published, the time frame to bring it to market will be longer than if you self-publish. Like I just mentioned, if you traditionally published, they have far more control over the final product. They might even have the right to title it. Again, all that's negotiated in the contract, so be aware. They're going to assign the editor. They're going to assign who does the book design, the layout. But that might be what you want. You might want someone to just take control of all that. You do the writing, you hand it over to someone, and they handle all that. Now, you will work with them. You're not just going to walk away from it. That editor is going to be in contact with you. You're probably going to have to do some rewrites. They control all the aspects, all the logistics of bringing your book to market. If you self-publish, you handle all that, which we'll get into that in just a moment. If you traditionally publish, there's still a prestige to being picked up by Random House, Simon & Schuster, whoever it is. That's a big accomplishment, and you should be proud of that. There's definitely prestige that goes along with being traditionally published, and that's worth something. If you traditionally publish, they absorb all the cost. They pay for the editor. They pay for the layout. They pay for some of the marketing. They pay to put you on their website. They're absorbing all the costs. You may or may not get in advance. If you get in advance, you're not going to get any royalties until all those costs and your advance is paid back, which means you may never get royalties, or if your book is wildly popular, you will. But again, all that's laid out in your contract. So do you ever see royalties? Well, it depends. It depends on if you got an advance. It depends on if you sold enough books to cover the costs of them to bringing it to market. The traditional publisher will handle all the distribution. All those things cost money. In a way, you're paying for it. You're just not paying for it out of your own pocket in advance. A traditional publisher will pay for all that. Once all that's paid for, then you'll start to see some royalties. The percentage of the royalties, again, is negotiable. You won't have as much leverage in that process as, say, a Stephen King or a James Patterson would, but it is somewhat negotiable. Do you prefer to just be a writer? If you go the traditional route, you can focus a lot more on being a writer, because the traditional publisher will handle all the other aspects of it for you. You'll still work with them, like I've said, but they're in control of all that. They take all that work away from you. You don't have to know about all these other things, at least to some extent. They'll do it all for you. So that is one of the big advantages to being traditionally published, is that that's their business. That's what they know how to do. They know how to get you in bookstores. They know how to place you where you need to be placed. Though they will expect you to already have some following on social media. The more you can already attract people to your book, the more likely they are to want to pick you up. And also that goes for an agent. If an agent thinks that you're already involved in those kind of things, you might have a little bit of an edge over someone who doesn't. So don't think that you're completely free of marketing, because you're not. Now let's go to the self-publishing side. As the name indicates, you're the boss, period. You keep control of everything, which means you have to have a basic understanding of what it is you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. I know when I began my process, I didn't have anyone helping me. I had to go and do my own research and try to figure out most of this on my own. I wasn't even involved in a writer's group when I first started doing this, partially because I didn't want anyone to know I was doing it. I never thought I would finish the first book. And then when I got to the end, I was, oh my goodness, where do I go? What do I do? That's why I'm trying to give you a little bit of information in advance so you'll have some concept of what it is you're going to run into before you finish the book. When I did my first one or two books, I think the first two, I did them through a company called CreateSpace, which is no longer in existence. It was owned by Amazon. And we're going to talk later about ISBN numbers and how important they are. You have to find the editor. You have to find someone to do your book design. So you're going to have to do research and find good editors. There are different types of editors. There's someone that'll just line edit your book. And then there are other editors that'll really help you through the whole process of understanding who your characters are, maybe try to push you in one direction with some of your plot lines, get you to understand how to organize your thoughts a little bit better in your book, possibly. So there are editors that will do different things. So be aware of that as well. But you're going to pay for that. And you're going to pay for someone to do your book design. You're going to pay someone to design your ebook. You may or may not have to pay for someone to record and edit your audiobooks. Personally, I record my own audiobooks and I edit them. It's a long process. It's not easy, but it can be done. Same with your ebook design. My other tip would be learn how to do it yourself. It's not that difficult. It takes a few hours. There are templates out there that will show you how to do it. The first couple of books, I paid someone $30 or $50 or whatever it was to go ahead and create my ebook for me. He ended up taking weeks longer than he was supposed to. It wasn't done right. It kept getting kicked back from the platforms that I was trying to add it to. So I learned how to do it myself, and I haven't had a problem ever since. I do it right the first time. I've yet to get kicked back, knock on wood. So learn how to do it yourself. It's not that difficult. Your audiobooks, if you feel like your voice is pleasant enough, maybe you create your own audiobooks, or maybe you don't create an audiobook at all. There are a lot of people that just want to put out an ebook. You don't even want to do paperback books, and that's fine. Again, you decide all that. If you go the traditional way, there's a good chance if the book is popular, they're going to do an audiobook for you. They'll find the talent to record it, or you may ask if you can do it yourself, but they'll handle that for you. With self-publishing, it's all up to you to learn how to do it. I use a company called Audible. You need a website. If you're getting close to finishing your manuscript, create your website. Do it now. You have to learn about distribution, where you're going to put your book. You have to learn about promotion, how you're going to promote your book. You need to start doing all this before your book is finished and ready to go to market. With Amazon, if you want to simply sell on Amazon, that's fine. Amazon will give you a higher royalty rate if you only distribute it through them. If you want to put it in bookstores, libraries, other on-site retailers, then Amazon gives you a lower percentage. But you can do it. I have a couple of books that are only distributed through Amazon, and I have some that are distributed across the board. So I have different royalty rates. You need to learn how to create ads, whether they're Facebook ads, Google ads, Amazon ads, whatever they are. There are ways to create better ads, and you have to learn that process. Now, if you go to YouTube, there are tons of videos that'll teach you about that. There are also a few online classes that are pretty good that'll teach you how to create those ads and how to add your keywords and what it is you say and do to attract more people to your ads. And you need to budget for that. You're absorbing all those costs, where a traditional publisher is going to pick those up. You're taking out of your pocket to do all these things. So I highly recommend you create a budget. To me, one of the most overlooked aspects of the whole process is the ISBN number. If you traditionally publish, you have no control over that. The ISBN number will be owned by the publisher. This only applies if you're self-publishing. That number is critical. When I first got into publishing, and I mentioned before I used CreateSpace. CreateSpace would give you that number for free. Or they would say, for $10, you can name who the publisher is. However, in reality, the bookstores and other methods of distribution knew it was a CreateSpace book, and they were far less likely to put your book in a bookstore. You could have someone go in and order the books through the bookstore. More times than not, you could do that. In other words, if you had a friend in a different part of the country and they wanted one of your books, but they didn't want to order it on Amazon for whatever reason, or whatever online platform you were using, maybe they wanted to support their local bookstore, they could go in and order your book. But the bookstore would see it was essentially an Amazon product, and they could get a little snippy about it, believe it or not. I did run into that a couple of times. So be aware of that, which is why I say the ISBN number is critical. You want to buy your own ISBN numbers if you self-publish. Do it. It costs more. Yes, it does. You can buy one at a time. You can buy 10 at a time. That's one cost you need to absorb. When the bookstore looks at it, it can't differentiate. It just sees that it's a publisher. And they're far more likely to carry that book if you want it in a bookstore. It doesn't mean that they're going to. It just means if someone walks in and says, hey, I want to order that book, it's easier for them to look it up. They see who the distributor is, because you want to distribute it through Ingram or another wholesaler. The bookstore still gets their same percentage, which I believe is 55%. So they don't care. They're going to order your book for someone. It's there. They can find it. I just don't know what else to say about it other than set yourself up the right way and make sure that you control those ISBN numbers. The ISBN number is that little barcode on the back of a book. Hybrid publishing, let me touch on it briefly, is there are companies out there that you can hire, and they will go and get your editor, get your book designer, design your ebook, help you with distribution. A lot of times they have an a la carte thing on their website where you can pay for some of it, you can pay for all of it. The reason why I mentioned the ISBN number is critical is because make sure that they're not controlling the ISBN number, but it's still under your name, not theirs. So read their fine print carefully. If they get your ISBN number for you, find out who owns it. But you can turn over a lot of that work to a hybrid company. They're just going to charge you. One last tip that I'd like to give you is if you're in the middle, the end, the beginning, wherever it is in that process that you are in writing your book, finish it. Just finish it. Publish it. No matter how you publish it, get it done. Put it out there. even if you only sell a few copies, you'll feel better about the whole process. It's like with photographers. They always say, print your work and put it on a wall. If you think it's good enough, do it, because it's worth it. The same way with books. I've been in writers' groups before, which I'll do another video about writers' groups in the future. I saw so many writers that would get 70, 80% done their book. They didn't know how to finish it. And they would just walk away from it, maybe start another project, or just stop coming to the group and never finish anything. Finish it. I can't emphasize that enough. No matter what you do, finish it. If I offered you anything there that you think was of any value, please like and subscribe. It would help out my channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.